In this lesson, I'm going to talk about the concept of strings, how to manipulate strings, and everything that you need to know about string, just so that we get started. We did take a look at the basic string concept in earlier lessons, but here I'm going to add a couple of more concepts to it, so that when you're writing programs in Python, some of these concepts will be very helpful. First, the basic manipulation of strings. Strings are simply lines of text that are declared with a single or double quotes. And again, we've been doing this earlier as well. So for instance, let me quickly demonstrate this one more time. So if I say something like happy, and then I'm going to use the plus sign, and recall the plus is for concatenation, right? Joining two strings together. And then I'm going to use my double quotes, and then finally the other string. When I hit enter, notice it prints it. The reason why it doesn't have a space between happy and birthday is because I need to leave a space between my two quotations. So if I were to do this again, and this time add an empty space, hit enter key, and there'll be an empty space between the two words happy birthday. So basic strings, no big deal. Similarly, the other example, you can practice yourself. My name is John. You can join two strings together. Now, a couple of other things that I want to show you here regarding the basic manipulation of strings here. For example, if I were to say something like happy, and then place a comma and a space, and then use my other string. So I'm going to say happy holidays, hit the enter key, and notice in this instance it provides an empty space in between as well. So I don't have to use the two double quotes to create an empty character, right? I can simply use this within my strings as well. Same thing. Let me copy this one more time. If I leave an empty space before holidays or the word H and remove my comma here, for instance, notice there'll be two spaces in between. So strings are very powerful. It just depends on how you wish to use them and the type of program or code that you're using. Obviously, the convention that I used earlier, such as the word happy in its own string, the word birthdays in its own string, is much easier to read, right? For another user or programmer who is reading your code, it'll be easier for that person to identify the two words as two separate strings, and then that empty space as its own set of strings. But just a quick word on manipulation of strings and the conventions that you wish to use. Next, we also talked briefly about triple-quoted string. It is sometimes convenient to have a multi-line string, for instance, which can be delimited with triple quotes. So for instance, if I need to write multiple lines of text in Python, I need to use my triple quotes. And these could be either single or double. Python treats them as the same thing. So there's no difference between whether you use double quotes, as long as there are three quotations. So let's demonstrate this. So for example, I'm going to quickly create an assignment statement here. So I'm going to say new text equals, and I'm going to do my triple quotes, say, and I'm going to use my next line here. I live in Chicago. Add another line. Say something like, I love Python. And end with my triple quotes. So if I hit enter, notice all I did was I used the variable called new text, and I assigned new text multiple lines of text as opposed to just one value or one string. So in this case, I don't have to join strings together. I can simply use the triple quotes and write the entire text, maybe a story or a paragraph. And this time, when I print, or tell Python to print new text, Python is going to print the entire text as it is, right? So powerful way of using triple quotes when you're working with strings as well. So whether you use different strings and join them together, or you use triple quotes as one paragraph. All right, next is object orientation. Python is an object-oriented language. Every piece of data and even functions and types are objects. So in the newer paradigm of object-oriented programming, all data are in objects, right? And a core group of operations that can be done on some particular type of object are tightly bound to the object. And these are called objects methods. Okay, so here's the beginning of the concept of methods, right? So everything is an object in Python. And when you attach methods to objects, we get certain outputs, right? We get certain things done quickly, and Python recognizes that, hey, I need to follow a particular method, and method is nothing but a command, for instance, right? So we use methods and attach methods to objects and tell Python to execute those. Let's take a look at a couple of examples next. So here, for instance, we have a variable called assignment statement simple called s equals hello, and then we're using the s dot upper with a set of parentheses. So here upper is simply a method that is associated with strings, which means that upper is a function that is bound to the string before the dot. Okay, so one way to think about this is that each type of data knows operations or methods that can be applied to it. As I mentioned earlier, that s is connecting or attaching to a method called upper. In other words, upper in itself is going to do something, and it's going to do something to this word called hello. Okay, so let me demonstrate. In fact, it'll make more sense. So here I have s equals hello, simple assignment statement, and next I'm going to use s upper, and notice what happens. Takes the word hello and converts it into an uppercase. Okay, so now the concept of method is clear, right? So once you attach a method or a function to a string, it's going to take the entire string and manipulate it, right? So powerful way in Python using methods. And of course, programming, as we move forward, we'll be talking a lot about methods and functions and calling those functions and so on. So make sure that you understand the concept of method, right? And these are, again, built-in words that Python has. So it's not something that I made up. These are reserved or built-in keywords that we took a look at in earlier lessons also, which allows Python to manipulate strings using these methods. Let's do another example. For instance, this time I'm going to say C equals hello world. And notice this is all in caps, right? Hit the enter key. And this time when I use a method, I'm going to use C, of course, is the name of my variable here. And I'm going to say lower. And notice Python is smart. So as soon as I put a dot, what Python does, it gives me a list of the reserved keywords. So here's a list of all those keywords that I see that Python says that, hey, we can choose one of these. So I'm going to say c.lower, and this time it's going to take the uppercase hello world and convert it into lowercase hello world. So a powerful way of manipulating string. And we can use multiple keywords. There are about 30, 31 keywords which are common that you can use. And as you program more and more, you will get to remember these built-in methods, right? So anytime you're writing a program, you can always use those within your Python code.